You see, because the whole idea here is that the drug rehab center would be helping the people that have these mental issues or whatever, and in the process, while the drug addicted person begins to heal, they are healing through this relationship to this other person who actually has a very real disability, and it shows the drug addicted person how lucky they really are and how good they actually have it. Now, we could also do something like, say, an environmental rehab center where people talk about how to reshape or to revive ecosystems, like, say, what are called Superfund sites, which that's a government declared site that they say it's so toxic it's not livable for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So we could end up having environmental rehab centers where they teach how to rehabilitate environments, along with gardening and farming land. We could have things like K through 12 schools or something like that next to trade schools and colleges, and have these groups work together or something like that in one way or another. Now, another aspect to this is this, you guys, is the use of certain locations for sacred sites, or like churches and stuff like that. Because if we have, say, meditation centers or churches or yoga centers or ashrams, whatever you want to call it, if you have these temples or whatever in strategic locations within these harmonic patterns of vibration, then you can essentially really tap into the high frequency mind of the divine while in these cities, and really upload some high frequency interdimensional self-awareness and self-reflection into the grid system, and thusly help to raise the consciousness of not just the city, but of the entire planet. So in strategic locations in these cities, there would be things like, say, churches, or things like temples, or things like holy ceremonies going on, or something like that. That way it could be charging the grid system with high vibes. And the whole idea here is that many of these churches could be filled or made of certain nanometals that are extremely conductive of, say, human consciousness, or of high frequency electromagnetic vibrations. You could also do things like surround them in things like iron or something like that, which iron repels evil and evil spirits, and fill them with things like gold or silver or some sort of alloy. The idea here, ladies and gentlemen, is to really begin to analyze the relationship that we have, not just to the earth, not just to each other, not just to the life of the earth, you know, the plants, the animals, the fungi, etc., the insects, but also to really re-examine our relationship to the cosmos, really re-examine our relationship to the fundamental geometric structure of the universe itself. And in the process, what we would end up doing is, simply as a matter of course, we would end up trying to use, say, certain things like ceremony centers or churches, or things like schools or nurseries or daycares or whatever, as symbiotic gears within a larger system that helps the whole ecosystem and all of its inhabitants to thrive. This is why hempcrete, instead of things like fiberglass for insulation, are so essential. Because not only is it a protectant, not only is it a fire and fungi and mold retardant and all that stuff, but it's also biodegradable, and it's extremely strong. And if we use Tesla coil antennas on top of the roofs or on top of the buildings that we're talking about, making these anti-gravity homes and stuff, we could also even put things like solar panels on the roof of these things, so that whenever these independent energy efficient homes plug into the larger grid system of the city, they are always charging the city, they're always charging the grid system with more energy than they're taking from it. And in this way, there is always more input than output, and the city itself always has enough energy to go around, making each home energy and water independent and symbiotically capable of functioning either with the environment or with a whole city is essential, especially when we want to, say, turn our cities into an efficient fractal design. all the buildings and all the pipes in the city would end up, say, being built in a harmonic shape in order to harmonize with the ecosystem and the flow of energy within the ecosystem. So a lot of these buildings, a lot of these homes and stuff, they wouldn't necessarily be the way that we have conventional homes now. They would actually be based off of certain sacred geometric designs that allow the channeling of energy, or the chi, to move through the home most efficiently. And like I said before, we could easily do this with things like 3D metals or concrete and 3D printing concrete machines. It's much cheaper, it's much more efficient. And if we have the water pipelines already built into these homes, if we have the water purification already built into these homes, then each and every one of these homes, whether it be made out of concrete or metal, could be energy efficient and self-sufficient. This template could also be applied to, say, the construction of oceanic communities as well, especially when we factor in things like certain anti-gravity fields or certain electromagnetic fields. You could easily repel water and stuff like that and create like an electromagnetic shield around a building or around an oceanic community, either above the ocean or below it. Now, this is another added layer to all of this. And that is the idea of building these types of communities, not just above ground, but also building them underground as well, based off of the same sacred geometric shapes to help channel energy, you see, not just above ground, but also below ground. And the whole idea here is that instead of, say, building homes out of 3D printed concrete or whatever, you could essentially make these homes out of the carbon stone of the ecosystem itself. And you could, through basic engineering, through basic architectural structure, our ancestors have done it for thousands of years, you could end up building harmonic chambers below these ecosystems, below these cities. And these harmonic chambers could all be like interconnected with one another to like channel certain frequencies of energy for healing, or for things like charging the grid system with positive high frequency energy. And if we get into, say, the use of things like shamanic plants and stuff like that, and how this type of a civilization would be one that explored the dimensions of mind and time and space in a whole new way, then you guys, we are really talking about getting into the next stage of human evolution. And if we recognize the notion that we no longer need things like lubricants or oils or whatever to power our society, that we can use electromagnetism and different electromagnetic fields to act like the lubricant or the oil between, say, a vehicle and a railway or something like that, then we can get rid of these highly polluting anthropogenic chemicals that are destroying our city, are destroying our ecosystem, destroying our water supplies, destroying our air supplies. Everything is an interconnected fractal. And when we cut ourselves off from that interconnected fractal, then we end up creating a dystopia and disharmony. If we use that fractal math, if we use that fractal understanding to our advantage, then we can all thrive, humanity and the ecosystem. Now, here is an idea I had for like some of these buildings, like I was telling you, having like multi-level buildings that are like shopping centers and stuff like that. These too could also be mobile. If these were built architecturally sound and they had an anti-gravity field or inertial propulsion field or technology, then you could have like a several-story building almost be like a mobile spaceship of sorts that would dock into certain platforms and stuff all over the globe. And these could also be self-sufficient through their water supply and through their energy supply. And you could easily, like I said before, use gravity to move the water throughout the ship or throughout the building. And if you, say, had a symbiotic relationship with the environment through having the outside being covered in plants and stuff like that, you wouldn't even need to worry about watering these plants on a daily basis if you had the right system set up, if you had the same idea of a fractal design that you use to create these cities to create a building. If we use this idea of creating a building in a fractal design that is in conjunction with the fractal design of the city, then we can really get into a self-sufficient, energy-efficient system. So the whole idea here is, as I said before, plants as a part of the structure and the decoration of the buildings. That we could also do things like a spiral building that is in harmony with the spiral nature of the flow of energy in the ecosystem. And this spiral structure to this building could, say, give everybody in the building a window to look out on the ecosystem or something like that. And then the interior of the building could end up being things like shops or something like that. The whole idea is, you guys, we could live a whole different type of lifestyle if we just look at the way that we're living totally differently.